we last time talked about what the potential for Bitcoin is. We went into the CAGR calculation because I think people cannot really comprehend exponential growth. And I just told you before we started recording, all of those things we said last time are now twice as valuable because the price is like 40, 50, 45, whatever the percentage is, down from last time. So it's amazing to speak to you at not an all-time high, but at a bear market or at a crash or a tip or like however you want to kind of call it.
I've never been more excited. This rabbit hole just keeps going further and further. And the price is really just a big distraction right now, Robin, in this early stage of the adoption of this technology. And from the years being in the telecom industry for 25 years and watching the invention of the cell phone, for instance, and everything that was built on top of that technology and where we're at today, we're talking from around the world and I'm using my phone. This is kind of where we're at. We're at the basic. If I could give you an analogy, compare it to where we're at in the telecom industry. In the early days, we had these big Motorola brick phones, and they were huge phones, and they were like $3,000, and they didn't really do anything. They were analog. They could only make a phone call, store like 10 numbers. You couldn't do anything with it, and that was the base layer that we built off of. Motorola was a big pioneer in those days. And so and I got in the industry back then. So I watched an entire industry grow from that to where we are today, and everything that was built on top of cell phones. Now it basically has become like, I like to think of a cell phone as like an organ that we carry around with us. It's like your kidney or your heart, it's like you leave home without it. You're like, oh no. So you get lost real quick without it. Now it's become part of our lives. And I think that a lot of these technologies that are being built today using blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies it's the same thing's going to happen. I see it happening. I see the same parallels happening. So it's a great time to be in this space and to get in this space and to learn about these technologies and what they're going to do. And there's so many exciting things that's happened since we spoke last time. It was in the summer in 2025. I was actually in Europe then. Oh, and by the way, I did get to visit your wonderful country. I'm sorry I didn't get to meet up with you, but we did make it over there to Austria, and it was absolutely beautiful. Congratulations. You guys have a really nice country over there. I'd like to make another visit there. So hopefully we can do that and meet up one day. But back to where we're at with this, we're at that early level, like I said, with the Motorola brick phones, things that are going to be built on top of the Bitcoin blockchain, especially. We haven't even barely scratched the surface with this. And this data, this Bitcoin's blockchain is nothing more to me than very precious data. And, the world's most secure database, it's going to be built on. And some of the things that I've seen lately has really sent goosebumps up my spine. And it just makes me want more of this precious data. So again, the price is a distraction right now. Hey, congratulations. We got a 50% off sale going on the world's most precious data. And, people love to run out. I say this all the time. They love to run out and buy things on sale. And I do too. For instance, I just had a 50% off on my shoes, and I had to buy 3 pairs to get this 50% off. So the first thing I thought was, okay, what's going on? Is my foot size going to change? Is anything changing here? Can I buy these 3 pair, right? And that's how I kind of look at Bitcoin is when the price drops like this compared to the dollar, I just looked at anything happen? Is anything changing? What's going on here? No, everything's fine. Everything's intact. And to me, this is nothing more than a sale. So I step up and I buy as much as I possibly can. I've been in this rodeo now, Robin, for almost 9 years. June 2nd of this year will be 9 years that I got into this rodeo. And I've been dollar cost averaging for 9 years. So when people look at me and say, well, what do you think about the price? The price is down. I feel sorry for you. And I just look at them and I say, I just had this conversation, by the way, over dinner the other night. And I just explained to them that because I've been dollar cost averaging for 9 years, I am so far in the green that I'm perfectly good with this. And for me, this is just a sale, and I'm using this to acquire more of this precious data. And I'd like to get into the reasons why I'm even more excited than ever before about this data and things that are going to be built on top of it, I don't know if you've heard, I'll go right into it, but I don't know if you've heard about these Claude bots. that have started. Have you heard of Claude bots?
Yeah, of course, the cloud bots. They're actually coming. The founder Peter Steinberger is actually right around where I was born in Austria, Upper Austria. So it really hit home for me, and I think he now joined OpenAI and tries to bring that to ChatGPT. So yeah, like cloud bots, it's tremendous. I haven't tinkered around with it too much, but like it's been all over my news. And I talk with so many people now about it because it's like you cannot not talk about it.
Well, let me give you an analogy and compare it to something, technology, back to the cell phones again. So in the early days of the cell phones, we had pagers as well. And so I kind of think of the Claude bots as pagers, right? And they were separate. Your cell phone and your pagers were completely separate from each other in the beginning. So, but then they merged together. That all of a sudden the cell phone could work. The cell phone could also text, right? They merged the technologies together. And I think the same thing, and this is why I had such an exciting conversation with a friend of mine out here the other day, Don. We talked about this in length, and I said, look, these Claude bots, they're going to use a currency. They're going to need currency. They're going to need some form of money to exchange between themselves. And what layer are they going to build on? And in my opinion, they're going to be using the hardest sound money on the planet. They can't use the existing financial rails. They can't use JP Morgan Chase and send wire transfers and Zelle and ask for permission to send money. This data has to move at the speed of energy, and the money has to move at the speed of energy. So these Claude bots are probably going to evolve into using the Lightning Network, for instance, where they can move around Bitcoin, the hardest sound money on the planet, at real-time speed. They can't operate on the old set of rails. So of course this is going to happen. And it's so exciting to know that the use cases of this critical data isn't just going to be for the hardest sound money on the planet in a store of value, but this stuff's going to be built on, and we're going to use this all around the world. Another thing that even excites me more than the Claude bots, Robin, is we've got AI, we've got AGI, and we've got super intelligence probably just a few years away. And these AIs are going to help develop AGI. AGI is going to help us get to super intelligence. And again, all these technologies are going to need a form of currency that they can move around at the speed of, the speed of the internet, the speed of light, basically. Just move this stuff around very quickly without toll collectors, without people in the middle, without people slowing these transactions down. And this is going to happen. But it also brings up another critical layer that's going to be needed, is that these systems are going to be vulnerable to superintelligence, to AGI and AI technology to keep the bad actors out. So they're going to need a database that can be used that provides a proof of work technology like Bitcoin to protect the databases of the world's critical data. So I've kind of came up with a new phrase that I've been telling people. I think that Bitcoin's blockchain and their critical data is going to become the world's master lock. So everybody, banks and governments around the world, companies, they're going to need a way to protect themselves from these technologies. And this isn't even getting into quantum computing yet. But and that's coming a ways down the road. And we can discuss that, since it's been a kind of a black eye lately on Bitcoin, as people are scared of quantum, and I have no fear of it at all, and I can explain that. But again, this blockchain, imagine the use case of this and the value of this precious data, Robin, if and when it becomes a master lock for the world's critical data. The numbers would probably go into somewhere with Peter Dunworth's predictions, which I won't even say, but he's probably had the highest predictions of the Bitcoin price in the world. And I don't know if it's going to go to his highest extremes, but I do think that if this happens, and it's likely to happen, I can't see a better technology out there for these companies to use, except for proof of work, which requires energy to attack their system and cost money. And proof of work gives that to them. It gives them protection. So again, I think that this is going to occur, and we're going to see this probably starting my best guess, we're going to start seeing this. We're going to see the cloud bots probably using Bitcoin for transactions and whatnot first. And we're also going to see probably within the next couple of years, systems having to protect themselves. And they're going to choose, I believe, the best network in the world with the most secure data, and that's Bitcoin's blockchain.
And you bring up an interesting point, because I think every technology measured, like if you have base money that is fixed, that you cannot manipulate, you cannot widen, and it's not inflationary, or it's as Bitcoin is disinflationary or deflationary, you have all technologies that come on top of that, and they all bring prices down. So if we now have the base money as Bitcoin, and you adopt yourself a Bitcoin standard, if AI comes and brings a lot of productivity and efficiency to the market, this means the prices are coming down measured in Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin will also go up, not just because of technology bringing prices down, just because Bitcoin also gets adopted. But imagine Bitcoin is already mass adopted. Every technology that comes to humanity brings then the prices down, measured in Bitcoin, because it makes us more efficient and more productive. And then Bitcoin is kind of rising, or all the prices measured in Bitcoin are falling, however you want to look at it. And so this is really interesting how technology, AI, and in general, like everything that is happening on top of the technology layer is kind of having an impact on Bitcoin, which I find fascinating. And on top of that, it gets adopted rather quickly.
Robin, I like to, try to stick to Bitcoin, but it all ties in, I think, together. And you made a lot of valid points there that I've been laying awake at night thinking about the future, because again, as someone who's, retired, I want to make sure that I can protect my, my retirement, my nest egg, and make sure that I have my chips pushed in the right locations, to be able to continue to grow my personal wealth over time as I get older. So you mentioned, and I'll get into this, we talked about cloud bots, right? Well, there's also real bots coming, humanoid robots that are coming. And I think that the same thing's going to happen with these humanoid robots. And some people who aren't familiar with what's actually happening, this is really happening. They're, just start researching humanoid robots, and you'll see that these things are amazing. The technology is incredible, and this is going to happen and drive those prices down, like you were talking about. But I also think that these humanoid robots are going to also they're going to be connected, likely to each other through some form of communication. And I think they're also going to need some form of digital currency that they use. And they're not going to be writing out checks to each other. They're not going to be Zelling each other. That's just technology that just won't work with these technologies. So they'll have to use a form of superior currency, and they're going to use cryptocurrency, blockchain technology. And I believe that the winner there is going to be Bitcoin for this use case. So yeah, there's so many exciting things. It's hard to imagine. And you mentioned the prices of goods and of stuff coming down, goods and services. And I do believe that these technologies are going to bring down the cost of goods and services. It's pretty much a given. But what's not going to happen is it's not likely to bring down, at least not anytime soon, the cost of certain things like hard assets. So I think that because here's in my opinion, if we produce and bring down the cost of goods and services using these technologies, what's likely to happen is we'll get food costs coming down, we'll get labor costs coming down. Maybe you'll get your hair cut by a robot one day, you'll get your dental work done. Who knows? So yeah, obviously the prices would come down if you remove the human out of the equation. And that's going to give the governments around the world the ability to print more money, because now inflation's coming down. But what's likely to happen, in my opinion, at least, in the short to medium term, is asset prices are going to continue to rise over time. So I think that certain things are going to continue to go up because they're going to keep printing money, Robin. And I wrote a book, Robin, 500 pages long, and the first page says 3 words: they're going to print, and the other 499 pages are left blank. And in my opinion, that's all that that people really need to know is that they're going to print. They're just not going to stop printing. I say there used to be two things we used to say was sure, death and taxes. I'm adding death, taxes, and they're going to print. They're not going to stop printing this. They're not going to stop printing fiat currencies around the world. They're going to print this stuff. And as long as they keep printing, prices are going to continue to rise until we have another technology that brings prices down. And I believe that's also coming. So we're in a transition period here, which is really exciting to be in. It does make things a little bit blurry going forward, but that's often the case with the future. We have to try to predict what's going to happen. And I think that whatever happens, Bitcoin is here, it's going to stay, and it's going to become very valuable.
You spoke about data. It reminded me about the softer thesis of Jason Lowry, where we have to protect things with Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is kind of not only a money, but also actually protecting data, or protecting us from, if you think about everything can be manipulated or copied by AI, the one thing that is not being able to be copied by AI is Bitcoin itself, because this is the only thing that AI cannot replicate. They can replicate me, they can replicate like basically everything that is moving around on our earth, and can make more of, but Bitcoin is the only thing they cannot really do. And so is that the thing where you also think about data and the security of it with the softer thesis? Was this the thing that you were kind of pointing towards?
Absolutely. And the reason is very simple, Robin. Bitcoin requires proof of work. So if these AI bots and anybody wants to attack the Bitcoin blockchain, they have to spend real energy to do that. That costs them money. Where with these AI and AGI and superintelligence, if we don't have a way to protect our critical data in the world, these things can sit there and attack it at pretty much a zero cost. AI bots can send out millions of emails all over the world, practically for free. It essentially is free. So if we don't have a way to protect our systems from these technologies, then of course we're in trouble. So they're going to need a system to do that, and they're going to need a system that costs money to attack. And that's Bitcoin. That's proof of work. That's what it's all about. They actually have to do something. They have to use energy to attack the system, and that costs money. So imagine if it costs a penny or 5 cents to send out an email. Well, these bots aren't likely to go sending millions of emails out every day because it costs money. It's very simple concept in that respect, although the technology is very complicated. One thing I'll say about technology and having a background in it is that every problem that I've seen arise in the telecom industry, for instance, in the early days, people were cloning phones. They were putting 2 phones on one number and stealing somebody else's line and running up these huge phone bills. And they finally fixed it. They came out with something called a fingerprint system that was actually able to fingerprint the digital ID of the device calling, and it would recognize that it's not the same device. So what we did was we used technology to solve a technological problem, right? And that's what same thing's going to happen here. We're going to use technology to protect ourselves against every form of technology that exists. The stink on the street right now is this quantum computing, and its threat against Bitcoin's blockchain. And it's just, I have zero worry about that at all. It doesn't even, I just sit back and just think, well, these people are worried about it just because they don't understand technology like I do. And fortunately, I have a background in it and I understand it. And I rode that wave, and I watched how technology worked, and I learned technology, and I got into it. And I was actually doing some pretty technical things in my days in the telecom industry. So anybody out there that's thinking that Bitcoin's blockchain is going to be hacked by quantum computing, no, it isn't. It's just simple. All it is a software update. That's all that needs to happen for Bitcoin's blockchain to become quantum proof. If Bitcoin's blockchain was able to be hacked, if SHA-256 encryption, and that's what Bitcoin runs on, if this blockchain was able to be hacked, everything in the world would be able to be hacked.
The first thing that every Bitcoiner does, and the most important activity that every Bitcoiner keeps on doing, is buying Bitcoin. And I personally use Relay to buy and sometimes also spend or sell my Bitcoin. And there are two main reasons why I do so. The first one is it's Bitcoin only. They do not do any shit coins. They do not do any cryptos, any stocks, or anything else. This is a tool, an app that is fully focused only and solely on Bitcoin. The second one is self-custody. They give you the keys to your Bitcoin the moment you buy them. You never give them the control over your Bitcoin, and you don't have to trust them because you can verify that you and only you have the keys to your Bitcoin. There's no third-party risk. There's no freezing of your assets. There's no rug pulling. There's nothing of that. Download Relay, the app, on your phone, or go to relay.app on your browser and use code Robin to save fees and get cheaper Bitcoin. I want to tell you about something very special to me. It's called micro-seed. If you hold your Bitcoin in self-custody, and you should, you know how critical it is to secure your seed phrase. You should not have them on paper. You should not have them on anything else than titanium. With micro-seed, you can engrave your 12 or 24 word seed phrase, the entire seed phrase, onto a 1-inch small washer. Yes, just one washer. All 24 words on that one washer. You can hide that thing everywhere. And even better, you don't need to buy a new kit every time you have to get a new wallet. You can make unlimited backups because microseed is not selling the washer. Microseed is selling the device that stamps the washer. So you get the full kit with the device, with the washers, with the hammer, with everything you need to get started today, and you can make with that unlimited amount of backups. Go now to microseed.io.